Well, a very good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on to Monday's edition of the Long Range Discussion. Mark Vogan here for first-hand weather and climate through the days of Mark Vogan. We have got a very cold air mass now covering the continent of Europe. We've been talking about it for the past 10 days, and yes, the cold is here, folks. You'll have noticed that as you walk about outside, you'll start to feel that air growing colder. It feels much more typical for this time of year as opposed to what we've seen the majority of the winter time. But you can see here off the upper level pattern of the European, the ECMWF site, you can see here the coverage of cold across the majority of the continent. We have been seeing temperatures in the Poland of minus 27 this morning and yesterday morning, I believe. And I've also heard unconfirmed reports of 10 people succumbed to the cold across Europe. So yes, it is starting to grab headlines, and I think as we progress through the course of this week, folks, it's going to become colder across not only the UK and Ireland, but where it is already cold. I'm very concerned as to just how cold parts of Eastern and Central and even Western mainland Europe could become by later this week. Now, the GFS model is showing temperatures in Paris of minus 11. It's also showing temperatures even down in the Madrid, where it's quite mild at the moment. It's portraying a 2 metre temperature in Madrid, the GFS of minus 12 by this weekend coming. So yes, that's the kind of cold we're talking about. Temperatures in Amsterdam and Brussels, talking about temperatures close to minus 10 as well. And I think the majority of the UK, once we start to see those easterly winds blow, very cold winds. This, folks, by the way, is not a snowy pattern, unfortunately. It's an easterly flow, it's a dry flow. But if we can get a cold enough wind, as the temperatures in western parts of the continent start to grow colder, as this core, this vortex of cold getting fed by severe Siberian air is going to start to fill the continent. It's going to grow colder. Temperatures into the minus 30s, perhaps even close to minus 40 across parts of Poland, into the mid-minus 30s, perhaps in the Bavarian Alps of Germany. And we are going to be looking at temperatures very, very brutal towards minus 18 across interior eastern parts of Holland, into Belgium, into parts of south central France. We are looking at temperatures brutally cold by mid to late week. I'm going to show you here as we progress through the sequence into the mid part. This is Wednesday. Notice here the core of the cold starting to push its way into Europe. Colours are starting to darken, indicating that highs across Warsaw, Berlin won't hit minus 10 by the mid part of the week. Look at the coverage of the cold here. Vast pool of Arctic high pressure in control here. Notice how cold the UK, even Ireland, will be colder than what this model is suggesting. Notice here the tongue of blue starting to push into France, even into Spain. Let's skip ahead to Friday. You notice here the core of the cold starting to push its way more and more towards the west. I think this here, folks, across the UK, Ireland, is going to be colder than the models suggest. I think the low-level Arctic air is not getting seen by the models. That was the case across parts of North America. I'm very concerned that that is the case across parts of Europe over the course of the week. Now, I'm going to show you here of the GFS. This is the 2 metre temperature forecast, and we will skip ahead now. Look at how the greens are over Paris. Now that, folks, is a 2 degree temperature, so fairly chilly. Notice the blue over the Highlands of Scotland as well. That, folks, is fairly chilly. Notice here parts of Germany starting to grow colder, Poland much colder, and of course you've got a frigid air mass over parts of Russia, through the Baltic states, up into Scandinavia. But I'm going to show you, folks, I'm going to skip right through to about 66 hours, and let's have a look at this. Notice how the blues have now started to envelop the UK, Ireland, France, in the northern parts of Spain. This, folks, is for Thursday. But what is also important to notice is how Europe, where it has been cold, is much colder by mid to late week. We're going to be looking at temperatures at or below 30, minus 30 in parts of Moscow, I think. It is going to be pretty severe indeed and I'm very concerned as to just how cold it's going to be. Like I said to you, high pressure will be dominating the UK and Ireland. Therefore, it's not going to be a snowy type of week. If we can try and push some moisture in, maybe we've got a rogue system, a rogue area of low pressure, some sort of energy that can tap into this very cold air mass, we may be able to wring out some snow. I think the best chances for snow is probably off that east wind, as that frigid easterly wind blows off a much colder western mainland of Europe, so over the Low Countries into parts of France. If you can get that from Denmark through the Low Countries, that's blowing that air that's into the -10 range across the North Sea, we could be seeing some snowfall across the eastern flank of the UK. But this, folks, is unfortunately not the type of scenario for widespread snow unless you get a system in. If you get some sort of a push of Atlantic moisture into this cold air, therefore your chances of snowfall increases quite widely. But you notice here, by Saturday, look at how cold Spain is. That, folks, is predicting a -10 in Madrid, predicting a -6 up in Paris. But a few days before this, we're going to be looking at temperatures close to -11 in Paris. Now, parts of the UK, widely by mid to late week, -5 to -10, but I wouldn't be surprised if we'll have more widespread -10s if we can get the colder air in place. Light winds, very clear skies, and therefore you've got that maximum radiational cooling. The only thing that we probably will have missing in this to finalise this cold scenario is snow-covered ground. Unfortunately, that perfect reflective surface that can really drive those temperatures down, releasing any heat by day back to space at night, is not going to be there. So unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing that, I don't think. But just look how cold the whole of Europe is. That is a very cold scenario, and I certainly think we're going to be seeing some records fall across Europe over the course of the week. Very interesting scenario taking place, and continue to keep checking back for the latest updates. Hope you have a terrific evening, folks. Bye for now.